Welcome to Enjoy Fort Wayne. This episode is brought to you by the Wailanai Farmers Market and highlights the 350 vendors that make up the #1 market in the state of Indiana.
Hi, my name's Corey with Phan Prints.
Phan Prints. And how long have you been doing that?
Just over 5 years, I guess, since it's been an actual kind of named thing. You know, there was some poster or art making prior to that, maybe a little bit, but around 2018, me and my business partner, Jeremy Selzer, we decided to make this company and produce, at the time, rock art or concert poster art.
Yeah.
Or try to make a go of it and see if we can, crack through and do work professionally. Maybe.
Yeah, make some money, right?
Yeah, well, it's more for just the love of music at the time and potentially making money one day, but it's not something you can just do.
Right. So explain a little bit more about, we'll get into like backstory and plenty of stuff like that, but I want to first get the actual feel for what the product is.
So yeah, we basically produce posters that can be done as far as production wise, can be done as what they call G-clay print, or it's very high end inkjet printing for like fine art reproduction or graphic art, or it can be screen printed, which is kind of the older style or traditional style of burning screens that have holes in them, micro holes, and you pull ink across, much like a t-shirt would be, but it's on paper. And I think most people might have some idea of just like seeing these maybe from San Francisco, and it's like Jimi Hendrix and these psychedelic kind of ideas to even really just neat fine art. And we've all seen it. They're across all spectrums of music now. And
Sure.
It's been like that for a long, long time.
And that's what you sell.
That's what I sell. That's what we make. And it's kind of a passion, and we, absolute love for live music is what led to that. It's like, there's all kinds of artists, Jeremy's a tattoo artist, so I mean, when he's not making posters or doing that sort of thing, he's putting ink on somebody's skin.
Right. Okay, so now let's we can rewind. Are you from Fort Wayne originally?
Not. If originally I was born on the East Coast in Virginia, and then moved here around 1993, and my parents kind of transferred here, and then I went to Homestead High School, and I wasn't really familiar with the area or the schools. I just kind of was a transplant.
Yeah.
So, but 93 is a long, long time ago now, and so I have been here since and consider myself a Hoosier.
Yeah. And what a lot of people don't know is I've actually known you, we played basketball, like open gym at Holy Cross.
Is that where I first met you, or was it? I can't remember now, but it was like we have some mutual friends, and
yeah, and
we definitely played basketball together
and just like hung out and all kinds of stuff. And this was 2007, 8-ish.
I don't.
I mean,
Sure.
Honestly, we've slept a lot since then.
Yeah.
But it's been a while.
Yeah. So definitely, I mean, and then you're one of those guys you just see around town or whatever.
Right. I'm just always around. Right.
Likewise.
So then, as I run the social media for the market, I would come across you and was like, oh, dude, like, what's up? You know.
And I've changed a lot, or at least evolved a lot as far as a career goes. And since probably when we were hanging out then.
Yeah, that's the thing is you were like a bug spray guy. And
I've done pretty much every job. I'm like the guy who's like, if you didn't go to college, you have every job you could possibly ever have. And then one day you become just a professional life person.
That's what I am. All right, good. I like it.
I mean, when other guys or people could stick out one career for their whole life, their whole work life, I mean, you're going to miss some work experience, some things if you're just doing that.
Right.
Granted, I wish it wasn't the case, but it is. And, but I think that's why it all clicked. And if everybody just, has one thing they want to do, if they just kind of, it's all about timing.
Right.
But don't give up.
So when you were working these other random jobs, at what point was in the back of your head like, man, it would be cool to do this? Like, was it always like even in your 20s?
No, not at all. I would say if attribute it to one thing. It was like when my son, his name is Maverick, when he was born in '04. I've always been a music fanatic like a lot of people, but when he was born and got to school age, we got him into the art magnet program at Memorial Park or Weiser Park. And at Weiser Park, it was just so cool that they had, and for one of the things that he had to do, he had a Mac lab, or I guess it was donated by Sweetwater Sound, I think. Don't quote me on this, but it was like a lab of Mac computers. And they had a class in like second grade called GarageBand.
Because that's the basic, yeah.
And
GarageBand comes with
so he came home and was like, "Yeah, we're making beats and music at school." I'm like, "What is this?" And
Yeah.
I was not really. I have a lot of musician friends, but anyway, long story short, he really got into this kind of stuff. So I got with the grandparents and his mom and said, let's get him a Mac computer to help foster his love of art. And so when that happened, well, guess what? I had a Mac.
Because essentially giving it a second grader,
yeah,
you got one.
And I wasn't even a computer person, let alone like these kind of, the consensus is if you're artistically, like, this is what you should have if it's music or whatever. And I'd say that's really what started it. And then it was recording music. It was making videos for amateur, for fun, meeting musicians, and then climbing the ladder and actually getting some traction, but realizing there's like absolutely no money in shooting video,
like, yeah.
or really anything I tried. That was like, I'm not a musician, so how do you get into this world? And that's kind of where one day my buddy Jeremy, who we went to high school together, but was always a phenomenal artist and is now a tattoo artist, I kind of went into the studio one day and he had showed me some of these graphic art that he had made with the computer. And it was like, oh, like, hey, you know what? And
light bulb.
Yeah. And so it was kind of like the blend of being a lifelong like, music enthusiast. I mean, I feel like I go deeper than most, but I'm not going to say that because I don't know what people do. But usually they're like, bro, that's a bit much on like the going down the rabbit hole. But that's the kind of stuff that I'm into. And I've seen this like phenomenon of people going absolutely bonkers for like a concert poster and lining up and waiting for 3 or 4 hours. And they'll wait until it sells out. When it's sold out, they get out of line and leave. And I saw that over and over at different concerts, and it kind of got me thinking like that would be a blast. So, it was one of those things where, as I grew, and matured and learned more stuff, it was like the pieces started to fall into place that it could be done, and so here we are, and it's happening.
And this was around, would you say, like 7 years ago? If 5 years ago is when you made it.
It was all, yes, exactly. So Maverick was born in '04. So it's between like that period, about the time I actually knew you. I mean, even you guys, you and some of our other friends were into podcasts years ago.
Right.
And you guys had all the audio gear, and I was maybe like recording music, but there was
we
some
were just
overlap.
like junkies,
just
like
trying to
cool
do
stuff.
Something.
Yeah.
Fort Wayne wasn't necessarily the most progressive, like happening place in those years where you had all these fun opportunities. Now it is a little bit more. I mean, there is a lot of opportunities.
Oh, 100%. And podcasting is more of a big deal and all this stuff, for sure.
Look, we reunited all these years later in some other path, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's wild.
So I'm proud of you.
Well, no, I'm proud of you. Very cool. So, okay, let me ask you about entrepreneurship. What would you say to someone who was thinking about venturing out and becoming an entrepreneur, not necessarily regarding the market? We'll get into the Wildlanai Farmers Market in a bit, but just entrepreneurship, and they're asking you for advice. What do you tell them?
I mean, I guess the best advice, if you're really serious about it and you're thinking about it before you do anything, is you got to find somebody who knows something about it that on a personal level, not something you're going to read or see on like Instagram, but somebody who's going to give it to you real and kind of can fast track you on any of these first. It's the fear. Don't. I'm not afraid anymore. No, it's just you gotta Google everything, obvious, right? But then speak to people, talk to people, and I think in the old days there was this like notion that to start a business you needed all this capital because you needed a brick and mortar, and that just isn't the case for a lot of, depending on what you do. But like a lot of people can work from their home in their office and make a fortune, depending on what you do, with social media and all the things in between. But so seeking help from people, which seems obvious, doing your own research. But then in the end, it just comes down to getting on Indiana.gov. And it's like signing up for anything you've ever signed up for before.
Yeah.
I mean, what you need to know is know exactly what you are and what you're trying to do as far as like a financial, if you're an LLC or there's dozens of these
S-corp,
little small, and what you're doing and how you're doing it and who you're doing it with all matters. But there's very little variation in between most. And from what I understand, it's mostly like liability if you got sued or something like that. Right. It wouldn't bankrupt the person, just the company, in the simplest terms. But to answer your question, I don't honestly know. If you didn't go to like business college, it's kind of like being a lawyer without going to law school. You don't understand anything you read or see. I mean, as a layman, which I am. But over time, you realize it's very simple, and it's not scary, and it's not complicated. And once you're 5 years in, you're like, why doesn't everybody do this? Oh my God, But it takes so much work. That's the bottom line. I mean, you go to work and you work 40 hours. That's, it's every moment of every second you live when you become an entrepreneur. I mean, I think that's cliche, but it's true.
Yeah.
I can say that.
Definitely agree. And I definitely understand the vibes of why doesn't everyone do this?
Well, I mean,
that resonates.
And some people absolutely just don't want to. I mean, it could just be that, so it's a certain type.
I was talking to one of my partners on one of my other businesses just the other day that entrepreneurs we can never look down on people that simply don't want to do that, because I need those people for things that I like. If I have to go buy a pair of jeans, I'm buying it from the people that don't want to be an entrepreneur that work 8 to 5 at Sears.
Yeah.
I just dated myself because I said Sears. But
sometimes you just, you want to just report into work and like leave it at the door and that's kind of the upside of having a 40 or whatever. Or, a lot of people work more than 40. Some people work way less than 40 these days, I guess. I mean, everybody you talk to can't find any employees. So
restaurants aren't open 7 days a week anymore. Like,
terrible service has become the norm. It's just like, what do you expect? We have 2 people working.
Exactly.
It's like, sorry.
I expected people to work 40 hours. Is what I expected. Yeah.
But no, I think it's everybody's got their time in life, and if you wanted to do it, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
But that's easier said. Then I have friends that just in the time that I've done it wanted to start, say, X business. And it's something where I'm like, wait a minute, you have to buy like 10 machines to do that. You realize, right? I mean, what about the dumpster to throw all the waste in? Like, you think, so it's like those sort of things. And that's the hard part. It's kind of understanding holistic what is going to happen once you actually start. And then, and then there's these people that seem to just have business after business after business, which is kind of cool too. I mean, it's like addictive, I think, for some people.
Right.
I wouldn't recommend it, but
it's a lot to keep track of, right?
Yeah. Just one is probably good. And, but the farmer's market has gave me, or us, I should say, like just an amazing opportunity to showcase the art every weekend.
Yeah. How did you get started there?
Well, for the longest time, for several years that we were doing posters, it was kind of like you had to go to a music festival or a concert or something like that to kind of showcase your art, because it's for a certain kind of people. But after doing enough work for a long enough time of all kinds of different clients and a lot outside of music, the folks down at Visit Fort Wayne emailed us about possibly doing some Fort Wayne posters. and because they'd seen our work on Etsy, and we had done one poster for Fort Wayne just through Phan prints. That was just because we live here, it was just a fun print. And that was the thing they saw when they were, I guess, searching around. And so we kind of talked about it, and it was neat because they knew they wanted to do it, but they weren't necessarily like completely in tune to the poster world or how it works.
Right.
So I was able to say, hey, well, if it were a band or something like that, this is kind of how it would normally work. And they liked the formula. It was kind of like a win-win for everybody. So we did that, and, they kind of really took off. At first, it was like one per every few months, so it wasn't like a tidal wave. But now there's a collection, there's 10 Fort Wayne, but then there's some other ones that basically the Philharmonic, the Clyde Theater, the Eagle Marsh, or Little River Wetlands Project.
Oh, okay.
They hired us for an Earth Day poster, so we did one for Eagle Marsh. So there's some other ones that fit the theme of the or the vibe of the Visit Fort Wayne, what I call the Visit Fort Wayne series.
Okay.
But they're not part of it, but they still fit. It's the same art, basically, same type of art. So now I think there's 14 or 16 totals. We did a bunch for the Fort Wayne Historic Railroad Society, and they run the antique trains. And so they have like a 50th anniversary poster we did for them, like a commemorative poster. And all of a sudden, it wasn't like this for the first several years, but Fort Wayne has become a hotbed for work for us, And so it's like you started it out there in the world, and now it's actually churning here at home.
Right at home, yeah.
And that's really cool. And that part of that's the growth of the city. I mean, that's obvious to see, because you got to have people, you got to have something that people get excited about to want to buy this art. I mean, it's the city's art, so it's kind of like
it has to be cool enough.
Well, I mean, they made it. We didn't make it. They made Promenade Park. Promenade Park is amazing. We didn't make the Rose Garden, but
the landing.
Like these are just images of these amazing places. So yes, it's cool art, but whoever originally made all these places, Fort Wayne's got some neat ones. So I hope we did a good job.
No, I love your stuff. And I have a question then about that. So, because I'm sure many listeners will kind of have this question as well, and you may get this question at the market, I don't know. But if someone has a print of, let's say, the Golden Gate Bridge or the Eiffel Tower or like something like famous, and they say, I want this done in your style, is that a thing?
No.
Okay.
I mean, typically not, because I guess the best way to put it is, as Fingerprints is a company that produces art. So for us, the best way to continue to make money off of your art is to be able to own the rights to the artwork. So
it should be a photo. Well,
in this case,
it's a photo that they took.
No, it's usually a collaboration of several photos that, if you look at the images and you were to compare it to a photo, first of all, you have to stand in an exact spot.
Right.
But if you really got them out and looked at them, you would see that all the scales are wrong. The angles are not the same. It's an interpretation that it's not that far off that you notice it, but it's not like real. These aren't just photos. There's a lot that isn't there. There's a lot that is there that isn't there. Sure,
you're adding just enough to like a non-copyright issue, kind of. Yeah. Is that the way to?
Well, not if you were to look at it that way. There's this old, I don't even know if this is actually true, but it's called like the 30% rule.
Yes, no, I know what you're talking about.
And and
for music, it's that way too, right?
Well, I mean, it's all debatable.
Right,
what's 30%?
Right. If you just make it enough different and you just claim it's 30%.
That's kind of, because somebody would have to call you out, serve a cease and desist. Yeah. You'd go to court, and then you would have to be Ed Sheeran and play 25 songs in front of the jury to be like, look, this isn't that. This is this.
That really happened.
I mean, it did, but I mean.
Which is wild.
I
did know. He win that?
He won it, but even as a music guy, I'm like, come on now. Because. You can change your tempo into a song and create it to, you know what I mean? It's not the song, but it can sound like the song, or it can not sound like the song and still be the song.
I mean, no, 100%.
Like, an improvisational musician, it's never going to sound the same twice, but like it's the same song,
George Harrison from the Beatles got hit and he lost
For which song?
for My Sweet Lord.
I mean, it was like a gospel song or something, or some other musician came up with it and he just ripped it off.
Yeah,
That was super common back then.
That's what the court ruled, is that the
Yeah.
da 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 my day Lord, like that tune was from something else.
Yeah, it's basically a sample, really. I mean, if you think of it that way, but they pay for those usually, except it's a real sample. But
and he didn't pay, and that was the thing.
But isn't that a 30% change if you're playing it with a different instrument? I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No. And a lot of that stuff, I've dealt with some of it, unfortunately.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's inevitable in this world, and we do digital art. It's out there.
Yeah.
And no, we've never gotten in trouble or anything like that. But it's just that, like, there are moments where you glance danger and you're like, ooh, it goes away and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
But, and you live and learn, just like in any job you ever had. You mess up, you don't do that again. I mean,
right.
Like, there's a lot I don't know. This is not, it's probably the most, or one of the most least, there's no standards. Very little standards, and poster making, or there's the way you print it, and other than that, art is it's the, what do they call it, like in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
I mean, there's prints I see that I'm like, ooh, and people are like, this is amazing.
Yeah,
and then there's
really?
stuff that I think is incredible that people will like poo-poo on, so it's a weird, it's all, why do you like that car and I like this car? I mean, it's very, I find that interesting, though. I mean, being at the market's if you were a scientist, came with me like week to week to week to see what people like.
Yeah.
And how you see where their heads go with the art, and you're like, okay, yep. And there's certain pieces that are irresistible. So those are the ones where I'm like, let's do more of that.
Right.
Let's do more of that.
Let's make some money.
Well, it's art.
Yes. The electric bill comes every month, though.
I mean, we did not make capitalism. I don't think. I mean, we as a people maybe, but not,
Yeah.
You or me, no. We're playing the game, so we have to.
Right. We didn't start the fire either.
Yeah.
So, all right, let me ask you about
one of my potential clients. I wish. No, I'm joking, Billy Joel.
Oh, I was like, what? How awesome would that be?
I mean, we have
had Piano Man.
We have had some very, very high profile, clients that it's like intimidating to work for them. But then when you get done, you realize like humans are humans, and no matter who they are, if you can remember that, you can get through pretty easy.
Yeah.
Not get too scared from standing next to giants or something like that.
Right. I'm sure you like the challenge too.
If you have nothing to lose, it feels better. Like when you could lose your job for saying something wrong. For me, I might just lose a client and then I just move on. But you know, it's fun to be able to create art, and it gives you, they treat creative people differently for some reason. And being a person who was working in restaurants and killing bugs, yes, I did it, and many other jobs I don't like to admit, but you got to put in your work and work hard. If you can't work hard, you definitely should not be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, no kidding. The idea is to work hard now so that later in the future that you don't have to as much, because you can either hire someone and you can run off in the sunset, but that doesn't happen in years 1 through 10.
No, nor do you want it to. I mean, usually it's like you have to create you have to create it to even be able to sell it. Like it has to be a really viable product to even have that, so will we get there? I don't even know if that's in what I think about, but because this is the kind of thing you should be able to do kind of like late in life too. It's not physically demanding work.
Yeah
Vending is, I mean, that's a different story.
Being there for all the hours and waking up early
and
right, and
yes,
100% humidity, and
and other people would just walk up and say you're crazy for even wanting to do this. I've had that. There just doesn't seem to be appealing to other people. I love it. You get to meet 1,500 people a day at the farmers market. I mean, that's probably in par, maybe 500, maybe I don't know, that come by your booth and actually stop and talk, or maybe not buy, but I think it's good for you.
Yeah, puts hair on your chest.
I don't need help with that.
So we did talk a little bit about how Fort Wayne was a certain way kind of back in the day. It's evolving, and I want to ask you a little bit about that. Like, what's something about Fort Wayne that you think has been really cool to see over the last like 10, 15 years?
Liberalism. No. There you go. Answered. I mean, no, but I mean, it's just like
Progressiveness, like,
no, it's just get out of the way if you're not going to do something. I mean, I guess that's the best way to put it. If you're not, don't just sit there and go boo-hoo and no. If somebody has an idea, like the ballpark, I remember that so clearly because it was like a political thing. It was, and it was just
the people that wanted to boo-hoo it.
Well, it was like it's going to screw up the tax rates, and people basically looking out for themselves only, and only worrying about short term or their finances, and not what could potentially happen if we kickstarted our city.
How cool it could be.
But that's just the difference between certain kind of people. It just depends on if you want to have fun or not. I don't know.
If you are a good person or not.
No, I mean, if
no, I get it.
If you want your downtown to be a boring corporate place, then
right.
That's how it was from like the year I lived here
until
just in the last like decade.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But a lot of cities thawed out a little bit too. I think you see that across the country.
Yeah, not just Fort Wayne.
Like if you go up to Detroit, I wouldn't even gone up there when I was younger. Just it seemed terrifying. Now I go there, like this place is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
revitalized a lot, and it does have a ways to go.
But the spirit of the people like rebuilding the city is like contagious. That kind of thing.
I think the people who boo-hoo stuff are definitely starting to lose out to the people who want to do cool stuff.
Or it just changes the mindset of literally everybody, because now it's not about it's like when people see success, they just jump on the coattails regardless of what they thought before. So now all those same people are having like successful businesses and things boomed, and they're like, man, that was a great idea. And I've done that myself in life. And I think we all have, where something seemed dumb, and then later on you're like, I don't like baseball. So for me personally, it was more of like the sport aspect. It's like, I wouldn't even go to a pro baseball game if we had one here.
Yeah.
I think it's boring, but the place is beautiful, and they do a lot of other things there, and it's part
concerts,
of the community.
You like music.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. I mean, I wish they did more, but it's logistically tough there, I know, but
yeah.
And everything. I mean, learning a lot about the music industry, it's wild, It's not like you think it is, so I'm still learning a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fort Wayne, we're on the map.
Yeah, for sure. Now let me ask you, what's something that you're like, we got to be careful if we keep going this way? Like we talked about the positives, like what are the cool things? Let's go the other way. Like just something maybe on the radar that we need to, in your opinion, watch out for. We don't want to do XYZ.
I don't know. I don't find too much wrong with where our city is right now, or there's a lot of growth, obviously, and prices jumped on real estate and rentals.
Sure.
But that is mirrored across the world. So I don't know. I don't have anything too negative to say at this point, or anything I'm too afraid of. I hope that Fort Wayne gets a little bit more of a nightlife going on, because I know we got a lot going on, but I'm not even a nightlife person. But what we do need is just like, I think we need more of a collaborative area where, like, if you want to go and bar crawl, you can do that. But right now, everything is still a bit compartmentalized in Fort Wayne. So like down on Broadway, but that's not Broadway, but Main Street. I've heard people say that whole area down between like Junk Ditch and West Central maybe, but
yeah, where Henry's
you got the 07, but it's still kind of like spread out and sparse.
Sure.
And there's little pockets. You got like your Bravas or Friendly Fox, but they're here and there.
Yep.
Downtown even, I mean, it's like you got to jump around, really. It's still like that. So
yeah,
I could see that being something, or Wells Street, but when I think of those two streets, you're like, wow, that would be a lot of work, that would be a lot of work.
Yeah.
Those are
And there's still a
all
lot
over
of
the place.
construction
Yeah. Oh
all
my
over.
God.
It's bad.
No, I think, I think having one centralized farmers market would probably be, a good idea. I don't know a lot about that, but I know there's kind of two, and I think it divides the people. It's the same people. If you're going to go to a farmer's market, it's the same kind of person.
That goes exactly.
In Fort Wayne, I don't think, is it big enough to have two happening simultaneously?
It's happening. I mean,
I don't
just
know.
the Weil and I, of course, not just saying it because we are there, but
Yeah.
it really is biggest, and it's not even close
No,
to
I
any other
understand
ones in
that.
Fort Wayne. I mean,
Yeah.
but they are simultaneously going. It's just people don't go as much to the other ones than they do to
No,
ours.
and it makes sense. If
It's
you were
just-
like from Southwest or something, that is quite a bit further to go all the way to the other side of town. It's another half a mile.
right, that's maybe one reason why it's like you
Yeah.
might as well just come to this one.
Yeah.
It's got triple the vendors as
But-
anybody else.
Electric Works is cool. I've only been over a few times. I hope
It is cool.
I hope it, gets the wind it needs to kind of make it. I don't know what it's gonna be, even if it was at its peak and prime. Like, what is is it a social place? Is it
Right.
a workplace?
Well, there's only so much space. Like even at its peak, like okay, what
Well, and there is, you're right next to downtown, and there is some other cool spots down there. But it will be interesting to see how that all goes.
yeah.
Yeah, we're just Fort Wayne citizens.
What do we know?
Yeah.
And especially us. Like you got the wrong guys.
Yeah.
Like we're not the ones to figure that out.
No.
Speaking of figuring something out, I always ask this question at the end, and I love just getting all kinds of different responses, and I think most listeners do too. If you were commissioned, and this is cool, you have been commissioned to do things with the city. So let's say the city comes to you now and says, we enjoy your work, what you've done. We're going to get a airplane that's going to skywrite so that the entire 260 area can read it.
Okay.
And they commission you for the words. What are you going to say so that everyone in Fort Wayne can read it? What's your message to the entire 260 community?
Keep it groovy.
Love it. I wouldn't expect too much different from you. As I've known you for all these years.
We're in the fun business. We don't get too deep on stuff like that. But it's like Bill and Ted. Be excellent to each other.
And it's something like if I looked up in the sky and saw keep it groovy, like how could you not kind of like chuckle to yourself and just smile? And you just smile, right?
I love a parting laugh where it's just like it's a obscure concept or a arbitrary idea that is like, and then they walk away and go, oh, that's like my style, So my son says like I always answer things and like he'll say, what do you want for your birthday? And I'll say like world peace. And he's like, well, no, like seriously, like I don't want like abstract ideas. But no, seriously, keep it groovy. And then the clouds would just fade to nothing.
Right. That's awesome. Give us the details on how to find you. Obviously, Saturdays from 9 to 1. But
yeah,
at the market.
We're at the market. Not all summer, but a lot of the dates will be out there. And we're traveling sometimes to music events, but then when we're here, and we try to hit the market. But we have a Etsy shop, Fan Gear Prints. I think it's .com. It takes you right to it, and then
Pretty simple.
Yeah. Fortunately, we have one of those cool things where like the name of the company is so obscure, like PHAN. There's like no competition. So we like totally cornered the PHAN of Google.
Attaboy.
And yeah, I'm like, I meant to do that.
Nice.
If you just Google search PHAN gear, or because originally there was like this weird obscure concept of like a fingerprint, but like we're fans of music and so
it works.
and
It
then
works.
also like printing with you get ink on your fingers, and there's kind of like this, it made sense that night. And then we were like, maybe it wasn't the best business name, but you know what? We're sticking with it, and it's working out.
Yeah.
So,
it is working
but there's
out.
a lot of really weird names for companies out there. So, I won't name them, but it's like, okay, you didn't think that out, did you?
Just take my word for it. That's weird. Yeah.
So, but and then we do have some other stuff going on. I'm not gonna kind of allude too much to it, but there will be some movement happening, and we'll be maybe downtown or somewhere else. I don't know. So that's all loose, and I'm not trying to be vague, but I am.
You're trying to be loosey goosey. You're just trying to keep it
groovy.
groovy.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on.
Boom.
No, but Fort Wayne, it's not too bad.
It's not too
I'm
bad.
making a t-shirt.
Yeah.
No, I like it here.
No,
I love it here.
Same.
So,
Very cool.
Anything else? Did I answer all the questions?
I mean, I think you did.
Oh, I got to plug. Visit Fort Wayne, down on Harrison Street. They have all the posters are available there. Stickers, postcards, magnets. They have everything, and pretty much all the other known artists in Fort Wayne have something there. And there's a great art community that is very supportive of each other. And Visit Fort Wayne, which is, I think, pretty much the tourism department, if I understand it correctly. They do an amazing job of, commissioning and carrying the art and like apparel. And if you haven't been there, it's awesome. So I'm just trying to give them a little love.
Yep, I have
They're
been in there,
supportive.
and
Yeah.
absolutely, I see your stuff for sure.
So,
I see your stuff all over the city, to be honest, and it's very cool.
well, that's a lot of just, I wish I could say I was some sort of master, but Jeremy's super talented, and we put a lot of work into the art, and it luckily art is cool because if it's good, it tends to speak for itself. It's like you don't have to really do too much selling. I'm not any kind of like car salesman, so it's
Right?
like,
No, you're not.
If you like it, you like it.
Yeah. If not, okay, I'll go eat a sandwich.
I gotta go get some of those egg rolls around the corner, like a Thai tea or something.
Yeah.
They have amazing food at the farmers market, or the brunch. What do they call it? Brunch on
bar.
On bar, yeah. So
For sure, with all the food trucks.
somebody asked me, was like, you do the brunch on bar? I'm like, what do you mean? No, I'm at the market. No, they're like, yeah, that's what they call it. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, technically it's separate, and that's how they can get all the food stuff in there. But
yeah,
you do the Wild and I Farmers Market. Brunch on Bar is also a part of that.
Yeah, it is. It was,
but you don't do food, so that's why you're not Brunch on Bar.
Yeah, and I forgot that they even called it that because even though they're right there.
Yeah.
They have amazing stuff there.
Yeah, they do. So you can find all your food there every Saturday 9 to 1, and you can find Corey, get your cool concert posters, all kinds of cool stuff at the Wallani Farmers Market. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by Coraggio Media. The show is edited by me and sponsored by the Wallani Farmers Market. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram for all the latest updates. We will see you next week, where we will be sure to show you how you can enjoy Fort Wayne.